That alone, verse number 11. I, thus, all that are spoken of, when carefully considered, inwardly are not many, that is one. As the receding I identities are countless in their totality, the substance of I consciousness continues. Commentary. We have before us the picture of pure knowledge as given in verse 4. When we came to verse 5, the Guru pointed out how it was difficult for us to remain identified with that pure state of knowledge because of the many recurring identifications such as the sleeping one, the wakeful one, and the possessor and prompter of urges. It was shown more explicitly in verse 6 how the necessities of life, like sustenance of the body, pressure the mind to make us seek different activities and involve us in different situations. These come to us day after day and night after night. It was noted how challenging it is to remain in the pure state of knowledge. We can either transcend all the necessities of life and remain unaffected, without any transformations or transmutations, as the ever-abiding pure knowledge of consciousness, or we can seek the company of one who has learned the secret of transcending all the changing forms of the eternal flux. Now we know where we stand. We admit to ourselves that it is very difficult to remain unchanged. We are constantly being dragged away by the flood of events in spite of our great desire to remain unaffected. Some terrible force is carrying us along from situation to situation. Then we were asked to examine this force which distracts us, and we realized that we are attracted by things like beautiful objects, sweet sounds, gentle touches, fascinating fragrances, and delicate tastes. It is as if we are constantly being enchanted by the varied and countless distractions presented to us by our senses. Just as we were given a choice earlier to seek the company of a liberated, realized master, we are here given another choice. It is whether to just be helplessly swept away or to make an absolutist break from the tendency to succumb to these kinds of pulls by discerning the value implied in each such pull. When you are attracted towards the beautiful, that thing by itself has no power to attract you if you are not already alive to the quality you see in it. Before you see beauty in something, there must be within you an idea of beauty, a power to see it, and a love for it. The occasion only awakens that dormant sense of beauty in you. If your insight was not thus stimulated and aroused to be projected onto the subject, you would not have been pulled in that direction in the first place. So instead of projecting your insight onto an outside object and then clinging to the object, why not use the essence of the object as an opportunity to examine what is lying within you? In other words, you can make the object a mirror to reflect your inner beauty. Then you are not distracted. The very object of distraction serves as a tool for you to go deep inside and see the beauty in yourself. The knowledge of the pure knowledge which we are becoming enriched with its own vibhuti, the knowledge of the pure knowledge which we are becoming enriched with its own vibhuti, its own possibility of showing its many natures. This kind of verticalization of all tendencies, breaking away from the external objectivity of the pull and reversing the value vision is a continuation of sitting at the feet of a wise one. We are still dealing with a problem which surfaced earlier. In verse 8, the 5 kinds of distractions were given. In the next verse, we went a little deeper to the very cause of why the dormant tendencies in us wake up at all. Then we saw that our life is a kind of nursery ground, filled with the seeds and seedlings of millions of tendencies, which are all lying buried in an apparent deep sleep called Sushupti. They germinate and sprout in 2 directions. One is the conceptual world of subjective fantasies, dreams, imaginations, thoughts and reasoning. The other is actualization in the world of space and time, name and form, action and reaction. In this way, an inner world and an outer world are filled with the bountiful blossoms of varied expressions. These grow to form a tree of life with its 6-fold changes of being, birth into a special form of existence, growth and change, replication, decay and disappearance. An aspect that is different from all this is pictured as the one who sits and watches. The pure aspect of knowledge likewise persists, while the changing, impure state proliferates. It does not proliferate to such an extent that the pure state is completely annihilated, however. Then we were brought to a situation to focus our attention on that pure state. If the 5 senses are deceptive, and if the 5 organs of action are giving you various promptings towards doing, let us keep them all aside except one. We turned away from all the senses other than hearing, and all the organs of action other than speaking. We tried to see what the content is when we say I, and what it is when we say you. You and I are different because I am myself and you are the other. But when I say you, you say I, the same as what I say. An I here and an I there. It sounds strange. Even in what we expect to be the other, there resides in its very core an I. I understand the I of the other by reference to my own I. Thus this I is a great secret. In it is pure knowledge. It is also tainted by what is not pure and can thus differentiate between I and the other. The secret of the other is in I, and the secret of I is also in the I. The one is in it, and the many also originate from it. In the present verse, we are asked to look for an other within ourselves. For this, the aham, or I, is to be seen as ahanta, the ahanta of this moment and the ahanta of the next moment. Ahanta may be translated as I consciousness, but it has a larger implication. To understand it, we must first understand abhimana. Abhi means in the present situation. Mana means measurement. Your I measures the present situation as that which belongs to this moment and has these characteristics. Whenever you experience something, there is a kind of knowledge content by which you measure its worth. You assess its meaning and what kind of affectivity you have for it. This value assessment determines the depth and kind of identity you have with that situation. This is the implication when we say ahanta, ego identity. Now you are sitting here and listening to this commentary. So your ego identity is that of a listener. When you got up from sleep this morning and decided to come for class, you had a different kind of mind. You were thinking of all the things you needed to do to get ready. The content of that time was different from the present context. Yesterday, when you were sitting here and listening to another verse, you were thinking of some other ideas. When you were at your workplace, you had another kind of ego identity. In the passage of time, you go from one I identity to another, which is here described as Agalam Ahanta Aneka. Over the course of a day, we move continuously from one set of interests to another. While our ego identities are many, we do not think that the person we are in the morning is different from the person we are in the evening. Nor do we think we are in any way different than what we were 2 or 10 or 20 years ago. Why? There is a continuity when we put together the essence of the differing I identities all together, as Narayana Guru describes it. Despite countless receding I identities, in the totality of their substance, the I continues unbroken. What is I then? I is a consciousness or knowledge of a knowledge of the present moment in the nature of that knowledge. In other words, knowing that you have knowledge of the present moment in nature, which itself is an expression of that knowledge. This is very important to know. And what is the content of I? The content of I is the knowledge of this moment, that knowledge is of such and such a nature. Where does the I idea reside? It resides in the presentness of the time factor and also the content of what is presented in that moment. Without time and without content, the I does not occur to us. The content of this moment is one of listening, one of being attentive, absorbed in contemplation. There are no sensual ticklings, no relishing of anything such as eating or drinking. We are not disturbed by someone coming and threatening us. Thus, this moment has its own quality. We live in that quality. We know it. Therefore, I, as an abhimani, as a measurement of this moment, has its own qualitative uniqueness. Yesterday, when I was in the marketplace, did it have the same quality as we are experiencing now? No, it had another quality. The I of the past was of that time with that nature. Now it is this time with this nature. After 2 more hours, it will be of that time with another nature. Within me, I am seeing several different I's. The I of now, the I of a previous moment, and the I of a moment which is yet to be. Do I really seriously think that these are all different I's? No, I don't. Why? Because I have an assurance from inside that there is no break. If I have such an assurance, am I reasoning it? No, it is an intuitive perception. I really do not know whether it is reasoning or imagination or intuition. I just have a clarity, an absolute certainty from within that I am the same. Where does that sameness remain unbroken? It remains in the essence of all I have measured, in the past as my memory. It is in my experience of measuring this moment and my expectation of what I will be measuring in the next moment. There is a contiguity in my memory, experience and expectation. My unitive state is a continuum of memory, experience and expectation. Now we have a scheme, a method by which we know how relata give a clue about unification or unitive understanding. Within me are many worlds of interest, which can all be linked together as my world, my life story, my biography. They are all tied together with this centerpiece. This is what I have lived, the great matrix of my memory. So I have a method to unite things which seem to be different from each other. All that I have to look for is one homogeneous principle that resides in everything. In the previous verse, this pure aspect of me was shown sitting under a tree. It was very cautious so as not to be caught by the twin aspects of the creeper growing upon the tree. This creeper is like an octopus with its tentacles extended on all sides. It might catch me and swallow me up. But I wanted to become a contemplative and broke loose from it by sitting under the tree, cautiously and vigilantly, giving up all activity. Now it cannot catch me. I have become a seeker with great diligence, relentlessly looking for the unbroken inner unity. I cannot find it in my ego identity, but I can see a thread of pure consciousness going through all. Now we have the correlating secret of the one and the many within ourselves. The one and the many are also lying in the transactional world of time and space, where my whole unit becomes one. There are also others with similar kinds of bodies, with different kinds of value visions and value formations, and different behavioral patterns. The problem becomes complex, but I am not afraid because now I have a scheme to deal with it. It is with this preparedness we are entering into the arena of life, fully armed with a correlative scheme to live out our unitive understanding. And the free translation is as follows. What are spoken of as I, when carefully considered, are not separate entities. Within the total substance, these are only modes, while the continuity of the ego is maintained by the connectedness of the attributes into which it is modified.